Welcome to Beyond Sprint, the podcast where I reconnect with inspiring entrepreneurs I've had the privilege to work with. I'm your host, Carlos Jonas, and today I'm joined by Jack Clegg, founder and CEO of Platter, a startup transforming the food wholesale industry by digitizing outdated manual processes. I first met Jack during his time inside of Wise Guys Accelerator in 2024, and I've been following his journey ever since. In this episode, we dive into Jack's path from working in his father's wholesale business to launching Platter, the challenges of modernizing a traditional industry, and how customer collaboration drives product development. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to Beyond Sprint, Jack.
Thank you for having me. Yes, pleasure.
Where does the podcast find you?
I'm in sunny London, England today.
Sunny London. Nice. The springtime is finally coming up, right?
It's still a 2 degrees outside, but there is some sunshine, so all good.
All right. So let's dive right in. Maybe could you share a little bit about yourself and later to the listeners?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'm Jack Clegg. I'm the founder and CEO of Platter. Platter is a life goal for me. I was born into the food wholesale sector back in the 1980s. Makes me feel really old. My father had a wholesale business, so I've seen firsthand how businesses operate on pen and paper, Excel. I worked in that sector for over 20 years as a buyer and as a manufacturer selling. So I've bought and sold goods within that sector. And I realized some 3 years ago that digitization was inevitable. So I decided to found Platter to solve that problem. So we solve manual ordering processes for food manufacturers and their buyers. We're vertical embedded SaaS, so we integrate with finance tools, demand planning. And our goal is to connect the industry to have a huge impact on food waste and people's time.
I love how you kept it short and concise. I feel that you've been training yourself on the story, and it goes really well there.
That's maybe 500, 600 pitches and explaining to my grandmas and old people and even young people. So you have to just go quickly.
Yeah. Actually, one of the first questions that I also had on my list was kind of asking you what was your once upon a time story. So you kind of already addressed that in a way that it goes back to your family. But
I have some insights if you would like. The real moments. As a wholesale buyer in my dad's business, I was spending around 5 million a year across 30 different manufacturers. So that was a lot of manual placing orders. And I think it was 2015 when I was a lot younger. I was doing this by pen and paper, and I actually went on a 6-week trip to India. And my father said to me, he said, Jack, you can go, but you've got to do all the purchasing. And if there's any mistakes, it comes out your salary. And I managed to do all that purchasing, and I remember being away on that trip and thinking, my job's obsolete. Like, if I can do that, I'm doing it on pen and paper. So that was like the first real moment I ever thought that somebody's going to do it. Obviously, I didn't do it back then. I actually went traveling a little after that, went skiing, which led me to move to London. It's where I met my wife and the mother of my child. And that's when I transitioned into sales, so working for food manufacturers. And a little boy out of the north of England, in the big city, I thought, well, the city will be doing it digitally. It turns out they weren't. Sellers were still receiving orders by phone, fax machine, believe it or not, even in 2000s. And that's when it really hit home that, I was spending a lot of time. I was managing around 30 million in sales in Excel. And I just thought, this is hitting me in the face. I need to go out and do this. It's those real pain points living it, which just made me go and do it.
Once upon a time when all these things were being done on pen and paper, what you're mentioning there, that probably is going to emerge as a pattern as I talk with more founders. But my first podcast conversation in Beyond Sprint was with Karen, who's a founder of Motivere, a platform connecting coaches and companies. Then also for her, the reason for starting the company was that personal pain that she just couldn't find the person that could provide the particular training for her. And I think in your case also, pattern is quite clear. If not back in 2015, where you had this India trip and you were like first time exposure to the problem, why not creating Plater back then? Why 2021, if I'm correct?
Yeah, I guess it was more of on a where I was. I grew up in a rural town.
Yeah.
I left school at 16. Technology, it was not something I was into.
Mm.
I was pre-Facebook. I had my first mobile phone at 19. So I was just on that cusp of, learning technology. And I'd always been a problem solver. I'd had multiple businesses growing up, from first year of high school to, all my life. I've always been solving problems, but more on a mechanical or physical level. As I got exposure to different types of people, when I went traveling, and I got a friendship group that were exposed to technology, and I started to understand it a lot more. I thought, what, I can do this. So really that, mixing with other people that were, more in a tech space just led my interest towards it. And then I realized that I could do it, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought. Not that it was easy, or is.
Like it seems like a analogy that comes to my mind is design thinking approach and the problem and the solution space. So it seems in your story you were first exposed to the problem space and you acknowledged the size of it, and then the solution space in terms of technology solutions that could be utilized. We met, so that's only a year ago, but it seems like such a far past, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had a child in that time, closed some funding and hired some staff, and a year has gone like, phew. Yeah, yeah. So crazy.
Oh, because I think back then, but back in the sort of Wise Guys SaaS Accelerator, uh, you were only you and your co-founder, right?
Yes, yeah. Me and Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the team size currently? Like how many employees you have?
So there's three of us at the moment. So we brought on
Okay.
somebody at the beginning of this year,
Okay.
who's an all-rounder generalist. Martin's had his own startup. He's in food as well, which is very handy. We are just about to hire somebody else because we've had some incredible growth for the early part of the year. So that'll take us to a team of four.
Okay. Slowly going there, but I like that. Probably a big mistake that's quite common for any businesses to grow a team before there is a proper business and proper product market fit. But it seems, I think in your case, that's kind of covered for well.
I'm very much pragmatic. I like small steps, make sure it's right, and move on. And I live my life in lists, and I go to bed with an empty inbox, and I'm diligent. And it would have been easy to hire two people straight away, but having never hired, and even the little things of payroll, pension, these things, they all take practice, and they become easy. They become second nature. I got to remember that the most valuable is my time getting new customers and working on product and design. So, that's just me as a person. That's how I like to operate.
Fair enough. But then let's get back to what you just brought up, product and design, because that also links to where I joined sort of Wise Guys Accelerator program was for the sprint, and I also preparing for this conversation looked up the Miro board on what was your sprint all about back then. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was about really developing the platform for suppliers for them to add the buyers, so
Mhm.
it's not so that you don't need to do it manually for
Yeah.
each of your marketplace stakeholders, the suppliers and buyers. So, how has the platform developed over the past year, and how has this uh, uh, supplier and buyer dynamic on the platform emerged? What is the organic growth perhaps that has originated from the platform development?
Yeah, well, going back to the sprint, it was probably the first time I'd ever really done anything like that. And, I was doing a lot of things probably I remember how I used to do it was absolutely awful. And I actually took stock the other day and I now do sprints regularly and do Jira tickets and epics. And, I'm, a real product person, which is hard to believe seeing as where I've come from. Looking back then, doing that sprint and, the big mistake I always used to make back then was doing too many things within one sprint. And now I'm just so granular and I understand that, maybe you've got 5 epics on the board and there's 15 tickets in each. Well, sometimes it's better just to do the most important ones from each, and the products actually we get more value for versus time. It's a lot of agile development with my CTO. He's done this. This is his second startup, but we managed to roll out that feature where suppliers can have buyers. That's now in app. They can invite, create, manage products. They can manage pricing. We also flipped it so that the buyers can now invite suppliers and rather than invite and getting accept, they can invite by email and place orders. So there's no restrictions from each user. So each user is able to do what they want without the other person's agreement. Yes, we want that because that gets them into our funnel and gets them paying. But yeah, we've had that live for some time now, and we're working on some other pretty juicy stuff, which is nice. We always do a sprint with customers, so we'll work with 4 manufacturers per quarter. Now, the big challenge from a manufacturer's perspective is, if you've got 100 customers, inviting 100 customers is a risk because you're asking them to change the way they do their business. So we broke that down into, try with 10, invite 10 buyers, work out that journey, see what works, see what doesn't. Do you want factoring? Do you want instant payment? Do you want demand planning? Which tools do you want? We then do a sprint around those 4 manufacturers per quarter of the year, develop those bits, and then we push them to a full ordering platform. And that's where we'd really got to at the turn of this year. We developed a whole bunch of other features that allow us to now onboard customers very, very quickly, put them into a 1-month trial period with sort of 10 buyers, and off they go. And everything is so in the app now. It means that my workload of managing pricing and managing reminders and all the other flows that work within it, we've now built into the product itself, which is a game changer for us.
Okay, here, and that links back to the philosophy you also shared before. So taking those small steps and one thing at a time. That, at least as I'm interpreting from what you're sharing, is showing the benefits in the longer term. So these quarterly, I don't know if I can call them quarterly sprints, but you said you were working quarterly with these manufacturers.
I think there were 2 things that I learned and like to work on is aligning what I like to work in a year. I know a lot changes and everybody loves the word pivot, but aligning what works commercially. What do we want to achieve commercially? What can we handle as a team? What does the product exist now, and where would we like that to be? So once I understand those parameters, I can then look at, okay, well, we can handle 4 manufacturers per quarter to really develop, because we're selling it into an industry there are no 2 manufacturers the same. There are a lot of crossovers, and the core focus for us is online ordering. That's reducing that invoice time down from 30 minutes from start to finish down to 2 minutes is our value proposition, and that's a huge benefit for our customers. But aligning that enables me to look at. We adopted a sort of now, next, and then philosophy. So looking at what is important, what will give us the value. The next, if enough customers want it, we'll do it. The then, your AI chatbots, your stuff that they're nice, but they're not for now. They're maybe when we've raised another round and we've got some money to throw at some quick development. But aligning those things, so the commercial goal, the team so we're not overstretched and we know that we can deliver, and then the customers that we need to achieve that. It means that we know what we're working in per quarter and we can just go and hopefully grind that out.
Getting down the most important things that bring value to the customer and money to you. I guess that could be summarized as that. But maybe going a bit back to sort of Wise Guys and the Accelerator. So, like there are many acceleration programs and many teams that are starting out their enterprises are looking into which one to join. Maybe you can share a bit more about your experience with sort of Wise Guys. What are your main takeaways, or where the program had the most impact on your business, or as also you as a founder?
Yeah, I think with anything like that, you've got to throw yourself in the deep end. Have as many conversations with, every founder. You never know where a founder can connect you to. They've got a huge alumni. You just check their alumni. There'll be somebody that's raising a seed round or a Series A round, sorry, and they've been through your problems. So the network it comes with, and exposing you to different types of people that have worked in product, or have a new AI tool that they use to save them time. That was the value for me. The program itself, some of the things, maybe were a little bit outdated in the way I work, but some things were really valuable. So you've got to take it with open eyes. But I think the network and just throwing yourself in and talking to as many people as possible, that's where the value is. And I always ask myself the question: would I, if I go back in time, would I do it again? And I'm always yes. Of course they come with costs, and I evaluate that. But without it, I don't think I'd be where I am. So it was a good experience for me.
All right. Maybe you can share a bit more how this network has supported you over this past year, even after the program, if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, we met some very interesting people that came, people from, who was it? I forgot his name now. I think Yanis. He connected me to somebody who she worked for us for 6 months, helping us with part of the business that I didn't have time to do. So, we got a lot of value from Betsy, who came on board, and she was amazing. I mean, advisors, they don't last forever, and that's a reality, but she was of real value, and she was a great asset to us. I think some of the other founders from different countries, different way of thinking, well, I will say, are they millennials? Some young millennials, from like the guys from Chatty Insights, for instance. They have a very different way of thinking, and you can get a lot of value from them, and we still stay in touch. And I've connected them to a few people, and they're connecting me to a few people, and just having those conversations and popping a note in the WhatsApp group and saying, "Hey, has anybody got a solution for this?" Me as a solutions person, anyway, it's usually me going, "Oh, has anybody used this tool, or is anybody using this?" And but yeah, it's the immediate network, but the alumni. There are some people that have exited in a similar space to me that we've had conversations, and they've put me in touch with investors and things like that. So
When it comes to programs such as these, or also university, I think network is something that mostly people mention as the main value they take away. I want to get your comment on one post I noticed on your company's LinkedIn page. That was already a few weeks ago, but as I was preparing for our conversation today, I just wanted to bring it up because it's about sales, and also recently in one podcast I heard like a rather nice framing of it, that as a entrepreneur, you are a salesperson, and also in your post in the LinkedIn and from your company, I don't know if you are the author, but I assume you were, that key to selling is not to sell. And then that's where you also mention it's about listening, about treating the other party as a partner. And maybe how would you summarize your take on sales if you were to share a piece of advice for emerging entrepreneurs?
It was probably actually something I learned on the Accelerator program. It always stuck with me. It's around 80/20, and if you're talking 80% of the sales call, you're only learning 20% of the time. So if you're only learning, you don't understand the problems. And I was always, I'm a very chatty person and I like to talk. So, what I tend to do now is to put my thumb on the table. And if they're talking, my thumb's on the table, I don't talk. And then there was another thing was like trying to reply with a question that immediately flips it back to them to get more information. There are sets of questions you can ask. If it's a product, for instance, it's how did that feel, and tell me about a particular time that was a problem to you. Then they'll tell you all the problems, and then you're learning, and you can then, obviously your AI recording it, and you can then feed that back. And so yeah, I would definitely say like listen more. Always record it with AI. Like if anybody's not doing that, yeah, well, you should be because it's 2025. But yeah, listening and getting them to talk, about their problems is key to everything.
Listen to your customer, or when you're in a sales call or sales conversation, ask the questions. Um, Maybe when it comes to really practical tip, or maybe if you recall from your recent experience in sales conversation or discovery conversation, uh, what practical thing that helped you keep to keep the position of active listening and really understanding the problem in depth?
Yeah, so I mean, I live my life in AI tools, and having sort of pre-call, I will have their website, everything about them into a project on ChatGPT, and my projects are preloaded with Platter files and what we do and all that. And then it's like summary. Let's learn about them, and let's understand as much so that I can sometimes change if the narrative needs to be shifted a little bit. I have the information on how they feel, what sort of things, are they a family business? Are they, so that, you know, it's not misleading them, because, you should do your homework on everybody. But being prepared in today's world does not take a lot of time. You can spend an hour doing that, and then after the call, you take the transcript, put it in, and then instantly, we have a set of rules that can do a mini proposal based on their needs. So we streamlining everything all the time. It's about giving them what they want and not what we want. We never say Platter does this. We say we are Platter. We want to listen, and if it's not right, we won't force it. But it's about understanding. I mean, the fact that they've taken a call means that they're in that space, and we know there's a problem. But it's wait until the second call is where you then show the solution. And I think a lot of people try to sell the solution straight up. And we're creating something new. What we're doing, there's only a handful of us doing it. So it's about listening and understanding, which is something that's definitely been key.
From what you shared, that take two main things away: getting that homework done before any conversation, having that research on the work. I would say that even that should be done before inviting them to the
Yeah, oh, yeah,
conversation. That's already there.
we
And
have we have a Notion page. So we have our HubSpot, but which is
yeah,
just a free CRM. And if it gets onto my Notion page that I built, I mean, I live in it. It's my Platter HQ. If you got there, you've agreed for a call, and if you're on there, the homework's done, the links are done, everything is ready.
yeah.
And that I do it that way, so that with my staff, they just do it. Everybody does it the same way, and it's proving to be quite efficient. But yeah, the homework should definitely be done, in advance.
you've done quite some great work. So establishing yourself, the platform is there. It's developed in a way that you currently have the space for onboarding more suppliers and then more buyers, as you were sharing. Uh, what are the challenges you currently see ahead of you in 2025 and going forward?
There are two main challenges. Is time. Time's always been a challenge. So originally, going back to a manufacturer inviting 100 buyers, when we changed that to sort of like say, like invite 10, originally we were like do it for 3 months. That meant we could develop and have enough time. There was just me and Andrew back then. We're now bringing that down, and each quarter we try to get that quicker because getting the meeting and getting into contract in the food industry is tricky because you've got Easter coming up. They're so busy that no one can take a call. You've got the summer holidays where parents need leave, schools are off. You've got Christmas. You've got there's always these calendar events that mean actually your selling window it isn't 12 months a year. It's probably nearer 9. So then you've got less, and then you're talking to a really busy, overstretched industry. So that's a challenge. That's always going to be a challenge. We have got a few things that we're working on, a few sort of like intermediary platforms that we're looking at, and things that where we can speed that up. And that's a challenge that I'm trying to address at the moment. Hopefully with the new hire, that'll give me more time. Yeah, that's been the biggest challenge. We actually opened up and hopefully should close a little bit more funding just to bring on this extra person. I realised that we can move a bit faster, hence why I needed to bring him on. And he's also an ex-food founder. He's had 2 businesses, so I'm just hiring people that are better than me, which is great.
Okay, so I hear like the core challenge is still operating in the industry where the sales cycle takes long and also the time frame in which you can do sales is 9 months instead of 12 months given the different
Yeah,
holidays.
it's educating the industry. Now, if you were buying a laptop, you'd just Google a laptop, wouldn't
Yeah,
you? And you know what you're buying. Our industry has bought ERP systems back in 10, 15, 20 years ago. They haven't bought this type of solution before. So
yeah.
there's always going to be a rougher barrier to entry. But we feel, we have a strategy where we try to work with different categories, and we would like those categories to endorse what we do. So, it's going to be slow, but I think once that has been broken down a little bit and the product is, click out of a box, that's what the seed round sort of in March 26 will be for. We should be in a position to put a bit more gas in the engine, or electric in the car, maybe, and move a bit faster. So, yeah.
Jack, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I'm super happy that you found the time to join in your busy schedule. And yeah, best of luck for Platter going forward.
Really appreciate it. It was excellent to catch up.
That wraps up my conversation with Jack. Let's take a moment to reflect on my 3 key takeaways. First, solving real industry problems. Jack's deep roots in the food wholesale sector, from his family business to his own experience, inspired him to tackle long-standing inefficiencies through Platter. Second, customer collaboration is key. By working closely with manufacturers and using a sprint-based approach, Jack shows that aligning with customer needs leads to smarter, more effective product development. And finally, pragmatic growth. Jack's focus on small, deliberate steps and delivering real value highlights a grounded approach to growing a business that lasts. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy this episode, follow Jack and check out Platter to see how they're transforming food sales. And don't forget to subscribe to Beyond Sprint for more conversations with founders building meaningful change. Till next time.